In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. My name is Commissar Andros Vask, attached to the Vornak Prime Planetary Defense Force, and this is my testimony. I survived what we now call the Verdun War, named for the color that drowned our grey world in blood and fire. I record this not for glory, there is none, but because bearing witness is the last duty of those who remain. The first sighting came 3 months before the invasion. Agricultural Zone 7 reported unusual meteor impacts in the northern wastes. We filed reports. We dispatched survey teams. We found wreckage that analysis could not classify. The Mechanicus liaison called it probable Xenos origin and requested 6 weeks for proper evaluation. We granted the time. We had quotas to meet. The forges needed our ore. We thought we had time because we always had time before. The survey team disappeared on the 19th day. We sent recovery units. They found the camp intact, equipment functioning. No bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle except boot prints leading north into terrain, our maps called uninhabitable. The commander followed the tracks for 6 kilometers before his Vox went silent. We sent heavier forces. They reported crude fortifications of scrap metal, structures that had not existed in prior surveys. They reported sounds, rhythmic pounding, machinery that should not function, voices that were not human speech. Before they could withdraw, the orcs attacked. 23 soldiers. 4 returned. Their testimony was dismissed as combat stress until the outpost at Ridge Tertius went dark. We had protocols for raiders. We had protocols for pirates. We had none for what builds an army in 6 weeks from nothing. The governor declared military alert. We mobilized the PDF garrison, 12,000 infantry, orbital defense batteries that had never fired. We requisitioned civilian transports. We impressed labor gangs for fortification work. The administratum calculated we could hold any incursion for 3 months pending Imperial Navy response. They based this on historical raids, small war bands, limited objectives. The Mechanicus updated their assessment. Not raiders. Huge formation. Estimated enemy strength. 20,000 initial landing, growing exponentially through reproduction. Recommended response. Immediate astropathic distress call and full mobilization. The astropaths sent our plea into the warp. Expected response time. 6 weeks for the nearest battle group. 8 weeks if the Astartes were available. We had 6 weeks of ammunition if rationed. They came at dawn across the northern wastes in a tide of rust and violence. Trucks welded from our mining equipment. Armor plating from harvesters. Weapons that should not function but fired regardless. Physics yielding to conviction. We held the Ridge Tertius defense line for hours. Our Lehman Russ tanks destroyed 60 Orcish vehicles in the first engagement. We thought it a victory until we saw them rebuilding the wrecks mid-battle, welding new guns onto smoking chassis, crewing them with greenskins who climbed from the carnage. They did not fear death. They did not retreat. They charged through minefields laughing at the explosions. When Ridge Tertius fell, we lost 4,000 soldiers and learned our first terrible lesson. The orcs do not fight to win territory. They fight because war is their natural state. We withdrew to the defensive line at Kavros Junction. The General Staff established command in the bunkers, 30 meters of rock between us and the surface. The displays updated with loss reports. Eastern Front, 3 regiments scattered. Northern approach, completely overrun. Southern sectors, holding, but only just. The governor arrived in the command bunker. How had 20,000 orcs become 50,000 in days? The Mechanicus explained their reproduction. Spore-based, requiring only death to propagate. Every corpse, theirs and ours, fed their numbers. The governor asked how we were supposed to fight an enemy that grew stronger from being killed. No one had an answer. We requisitioned civilian stocks, supplies, food, fuel. Every warehouse, every resource bent toward the war effort. The civilians understood. Kavros Junction held for 18 days. We learned to fight them. Concentrated fire, flamers to sterilize corpses. The soldiers died in thousands, but they died learning. The orcs attacked in waves without pattern or strategy. Yet somehow their chaos created its own momentum. Their biggest warriors led from the front, inspiring frenzies in the smaller breeds. When we killed a war boss, the resulting infighting bought us hours. But a new boss always emerged, and the horde resumed with renewed fury. We requested orbital support. The defense monitors fired lance strikes into orc concentrations, each blast vaporizing hundreds. The orcs responded by looting our destroyed armor, mounting our own weapons on their machines, firing them back at us with inaccuracy that somehow still found targets. They were learning too, not tactics, not strategy, but they were learning what hurt us most. The southern hive cities began evacuation. 3 million civilians, insufficient transport, impossible logistics. The administratum prioritized skilled laborers first, then children, then whoever could fit. The rest received lasguns and instructions to delay the orcs. They were not soldiers. They became soldiers because there was no alternative. I watched the conscription centers process thousands per hour. Factory workers, merchants, teachers, receiving 3 days of training before deployment to the front. They died as quickly as trained soldiers, but they bought time with their lives. The orcish advance slowed not from tactics, but from the sheer mass of resistance. Every street became a kill zone, every building a fortress until it collapsed. The orcs did not care about casualties. The astropaths reported success. Imperial Navy Battle Group Arcturus acknowledged our distress and diverted course. Estimated arrival, 9 days. We had 4 days of ammunition remaining. The General Staff made the calculation. Reduce defensive fire, conserve munitions, accept higher casualties now to maintain capability for Navy arrival. I stood on the wall at Kavros and watched our firing rate decrease by half. I watched orcs surge closer before our guns spoke. I watched soldiers die because we ordered them to let the enemy approach to preserve bullets for tomorrow. That night, I found a commissar from 3rd Regiment who had executed himself rather than enforce the ammunition rationing. His company had been overrun that afternoon. He left a note. I could not tell them to die slower. I burned it and filed his death as combat casualty. The orcish horde breached the inner defensive perimeter. They came through the industrial sector, a tide of green that overwhelmed the defenders. We fell back to the final defense line, a 50-kilometer arc around the planetary capital. Behind us, 2 million civilians. Before us, an ocean of greenskins visible to the horizon. The PDF mustered everything remaining. 6,000 combat-effective soldiers, 12 functioning tanks, orbital defense batteries down. The governor authorized civilian mobilization. Anyone capable of holding a weapon was inducted, trained in hours, and deployed to the trenches. I walked the line the night before the final assault. I saw people given lasguns they could barely lift. I saw elderly clutching prayer beads and autoguns. I saw veterans with 1,000-yard stares who had seen everything collapse around them and still stood ready. The final assault began at dawn. The orcs came in a wave that blackened the earth, howling their brutal chant, firing their crude weapons in volleys that killed through volume rather than accuracy. We fired back with everything. Our lasguns burned through power packs. Our heavy bolters cooked barrels. Our tanks fired until ammunition exhausted, then charged into orc lines to crush them before being swarmed and torn apart by mobs wielding improvised hammers and axes. The line held for 6 hours, then 8, then 12, not through superior tactics or firepower, but through desperation. Every meter they advanced cost them hundreds. Every trench they took was over corpses of defenders who fired until overrun. I killed 43 orcs that day with my last pistol. I remember none of their faces, only the moment between shots, the endless green tide that never stopped coming. The trenches fell. We withdrew into the capital itself, street by street fighting through districts we were destroying to deny them to the orcs. The horde followed us into the urban maze, their momentum fragmenting into warbands pursuing separate battles. We made them pay for every street. Melter charges collapsed buildings onto their columns. Snipers thinned their numbers from windows. Civilians threw promethium from upper floors and ignited the streets below. The orcs loved it. They fought harder in close quarters, their brutal strength overwhelming our tactics. The Navy battle group transmitted arrival in 36 hours. We no longer believed rescue was possible. The capital would fall before they arrived. We fought anyway, not for victory, but because surrender to the orcs meant fate worse than death. The Emperor protects, we told ourselves. The horde reached the palace. The governor refused evacuation. He broadcast final orders from the command bunker. Fight to the last. The administratum officials fled to the starport, seeking transport that did not exist. PDF command authorized last stand protocols. No retreat, no surrender. Hold until annihilation. I gathered the survivors from my regiment, 93 soldiers from an original strength of 4,000. I told them to hold one more day. I did not tell them I had stopped believing it mattered. We fortified the administratum sector, rockcrete barriers, weapon emplacements using furniture and bodies for cover, fighting positions in buildings already burning from previous fights. The orcs came at dusk, a horde numbering tens of thousands against our final hundreds. We fired until our weapons glowed. We fought with bayonets when ammunition expired. Standing, we died. Night fell on day 77, and the sky changed, not with fire or destruction, but with light, burning light from above. Drop pods falling like meteors, retro thrusters igniting kilometers overhead, descending into the orc-held districts with the certainty of the Emperor's judgment. We did not understand. We had stopped hoping. Then we heard them over the Vox, a voice like granite, like war incarnate speaking low Gothic with absolute authority. Vornak Prime Defense Forces, this is Captain Brennus of the Ultramarines 3rd Company. We are assuming operational command. Hold your positions. The Adeptus Astartes had come. Not Imperial Navy, not reinforcements, the angels of death. I wept and did not know why. Relief, perhaps, or grief that they had not come sooner, or simply the breaking of tension held too long. The drop pods impacted in the orc-held industrial sector. Hatches blew open with explosive force, and from within strode demigods in blue ceramite. Each space marine stood twice the height of mortal men, clad in powered armor. They moved with precision we had forgotten existed. No wasted motion, no hesitation. Each bolt round fired, finding its target with geometrical certainty. Their bolters spoke a different language than our weapons. Not the crack of las fire, but the deep boom of mass reactive shells. Where whole squads died to kill one orc, a single ultramarine killed dozens with ease. Where we had fought desperately, they fought with contempt. The orcs charged them with the same fury they had shown us. The ultramarines cut them down without breaking a sweat. I watched one space marine, a sergeant in Terminator plate, walk through an orc mob numbering hundreds, his chainsword reducing them to vapor and bone fragments. emerging untouched on the far side. The Ultramarines consolidated control. Their third company numbered 100 Space Marines. 100, where we had fielded thousands and failed. They swept the capital district by district, purging remaining orcs with methodical efficiency. They did not rest. They simply executed their duty with absolute professionalism. Captain Brennus established command in the palace. I reported to him with casualty figures. PDF, casualties 91%. Civilian casualties 67%. Industrial capacity destroyed. Food production collapsed. He reviewed the data without expression and informed me that Imperial Navy transports would arrive within the week to establish occupational authority. Vornak Prime was classified as war-damaged but viable. Reconstruction would proceed under administratum oversight. We had saved the world, he said. I looked at the ruins outside and could not reconcile his words with what I saw. The Ultramarines remained for 6 days, ensuring complete eradication of orcish presence. Their tech marines supervised sterilizing spore-contaminated zones with flamers and orbital bombardment. They taught our surviving PDF proper anti-Xenos protocols, methods of detection and eradication procedures. They did this not as teachers to students, but as masters instructing servants in essential maintenance. There was no camaraderie. They had fought a battle. We had survived a catastrophe. These were not the same thing. I asked Captain Brennus why they had waited so long. His response was simple. They had come as quickly as warp travel allowed. Vornak Prime was one world among millions. The Ultramarines could not be everywhere simultaneously. Other worlds had also called for aid. Some had fallen before rescue arrived. We were fortunate, he said. I looked at the mass graves and did not feel fortunate. The Imperial Navy arrived on day 83, with supply ships and administratum officials who began cataloguing the damage with bureaucratic efficiency. They processed survivors. Those who could work were assigned reconstruction duties. Those who could not were transported off-world. The governor's body was recovered from the palace ruins. He received posthumous honors and a state funeral. The new governor arrived from off-world with instructions to restore Vornak Prime to full productivity. The forges needed our ore. Survival did not exempt us from duty. The Ultramarines departed without ceremony. Captain Brennus informed me his company was needed elsewhere. Another world, another war, another deliverance for those fortunate enough to survive until the angels arrived. I remained on Vornak Prime during the Reconstruction, commissioned into the new PDF, training conscripts to replace the 91% who died defending what remained. We lost 8 million of 12 million population. We lost every city except the capital, and that only in ruins. We lost farmland to orc spores that would require decades of sterilization. We lost industry, infrastructure, the accumulated work of 6,000 years of imperial compliance. The Ultramarines killed the orcs. They did not restore the dead. They did not rebuild the cities. They did not plant the fields. We did, those of us who remained, and we would do it again because there was no alternative. This is the Imperium. Survival is victory. Duty is eternal. The Emperor protects those who protect themselves. Vornak Prime stands today as a monument to endurance. The capital has been rebuilt in grey rockcrete, efficient and joyless. The forges produce ore again. The population has recovered to 4 million through immigration and high birth rate programs. The PDF garrison now numbers 20,000, trained in anti-Xenos doctrine, prepared for what may come again. We remember the verdant war in ceremony and prayer. We remember those who held the line until deliverance arrived. We remember that the Emperor sent his angels when we needed them most. we serve the Imperium that endures across 1,000,000 worlds, where every world is essential and every world is expendable. The Adeptus Astartes saved Vornak Prime. They did not save its people. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.